Now, is it better now? Can you hear properly now? Can you hear me now? Is it better now? Okay. Okay, good evening to all of you. I would like to start the last session of our class. As you know, this is session 10, last session of our semester. I have received all of your assignments. I believe all of the groups have already submitted their assignments. And I will be able to finalize the assignment result right after this class, and then during this week I will submit it to WWS and they will announce it accordingly. So let's start the class today by immediately going through PowerPoint slides. Today the chapter topic is Open Economy, Macroeconomics, Basic Concepts. So let's start and see what's going on. Open Economy, Macroeconomics, Basic Concepts. If you remember, we talked about macroeconomics and macroeconomics last sessions. Today we are going to go more detail in macroeconomics and talk about open and closed economics. What is open economy, or what is open and closed economy? A closed economy is one that does not interact with other economies in the world. There are no export, no import, and no capital flow. An economy like North Korea will be a closed economy. Then you don't really have transaction going on and interaction going on with other countries in the world. An open economy is one that interacts freely with other economies around the world. It's exactly vice versa. When you start having the maximum possible interactions with the rest of the world, that is when you have open economy. All of these developing countries like USA, Japan, most of European Union countries, they are all absolutely open economies. We have some economies that to some extent they are open and not as open as the most of the developed countries, but we have definitely a continuum of different countries, from an absolute closed economy like North Korea to an absolute open economy like Japan and USA. So an open economy interacts with other countries in two ways. There are two possible ways to interact with the rest of the world. It buys and sells goods and services in world product market, as well as it buys and sells capital assets in world financial market. So this is how usually you interact with the rest of the world. So export, import, as well as capital assets in world financial market. So you are buying your stock, you are actually involved in all of these financial stock markets. The United States is a very large and open economy. It imports and exports huge quantity of goods and services over the past 4 decades. international trade and finance have become increasingly important. The fact that in last 40 years, the whole idea of interacting with the rest of the world and creating competitive advantage and enjoying the benefits of that has been the focus of most of the economy. So, increasingly very important to most of the open economies that actually interact with the rest of the world. The flow of goods, export, import, and then export. What is that? Exports are goods and services that are produced domestically and sold abroad. It's a very, very clear message. We usually sell whatever you can have a competitive advantage or relatively better competitive advantage to the rest of the world. And usually you import things that you believe it's better we produce to not produce and bring it. The reason why you don't produce them is not necessarily because you cannot. Sometimes the cost of producing certain products and services, because you don't have competitive advantage in them, is higher than importing them. So it's better to import them. For example, there are some countries in the world that actually have natural gas or natural oil, but still they import natural gas for a certain place in the country, because supplying gas from other part of the country that has actually natural sources to that specific area is going to be more costly than importing that natural gas from the world. For example, Iran is one of those countries. South of Iran has huge enriched sources of natural gas as well as oil, but north of Iran, the natural gas supply is going to be from Turkmenistan, and the simple reason is Turkmenistan has natural gas. It will be much easier to import that from over there rather than pumping the whole gas from south of Iran to over there. So sometimes you do it not necessarily because you don't have it, because it seems cheaper. So export and import is an absolute absolute functional way that we try to acquire different things that it helps you to run the economy. Net export, NX, are the value of a nation's export minus the value of its import. So whenever we say net export of a certain country is positive or negative, means the value of export is more than import or vice versa. Net exports are also called the trade balance. Usually we have a surplus in trade balance when net export is positive, means export is more than import, and we have deficit in trade balance when net export is negative or export is less than import. A trade deficit is a situation in which net export and X are negative, import is more than export, as I just told you. A trade surplus is a situation in which net export and X are positive, so exports are more than import. Balanced trade refers to when net exports are zero, means exports and imports are exactly equal. So, the factors that affect net exports. What are the factors that cause us to have more export rather than import, or more export, less export in comparison with import? The taste of consumers for domestic and foreign goods. Some economies, some people living in that economy, they're believing that domestic product is better than foreign products, so they tend to buy the domestic product. So definitely there is a better demand for domestic products, so we'll end up having less exporting and importing and more exporting, so that's how you end up having positive or surplus. And sometimes it's vice versa. The prices of goods at home and abroad. Sometimes, as I just told you, if you want to buy a product from your own country, it's much cheaper than exporting that, so that's why you buy it. Countries in the world that they have national for example, car or automotive industry, they usually impose more taxes on importing products, so they're exporting, so their own local domestic product seems much cheaper to customers. So it is how they're supporting their own domestic production system. The exchange rate at which people can use domestic currency to buy foreign currency. That is again another factor in export, import, and net export. So if you have a better currency, so you're able to buy a higher number of foreign currency with your money, so then you are willing to buy import more, and vice versa. That's why a country like Kuwait, with Kuwaiti dinar, has one of the highest amount of import in the whole world. They don't really export anything except oil, but they are importing so many different products, a huge variety of products, simply because the currency power is high. So with one dinar Kuwait, they can simply buy so many. For example, one dinar Kuwait is equivalent to $4 to $5. This assumption can be something around that. So just imagine how cheap the foreign product seems for Kuwaiti people. That's why we are buying more product from abroad, and it does stimulate actually the import to be high. Factors that affect net export. These are the other factors that actually affect net export. The income of consumer at home and abroad. Again, the income level of people usually affect the net export, which is again export minus import. How much you buy domestic product, how much you buy foreign product, how much of those products are luxurious, how much of those products are cheaper. For example, not necessarily all the time buying imported product means that you have a better income level. Sometimes imported product means some Chinese product that they are actually very cheap, and sometimes buying a domestic product means buying very luxurious handicraft things. For example, they are very cheap version of carpet that they are not actually handicraft, they are not handmade, they are machine made, and they're imported to a country like Iran that has main source of carpet in the world. Actually, the handicraft carpet comes from that region. But not necessarily if you're buying it from abroad, it's going to be cheaper. Definitely, it's going to be more expensive to buy domestic products that they are made in Iran rather than that. So it's not necessary that if your income level is higher, you're buying certain exported product or imported product. Domestic product or imported product. The cost of transporting goods from country to country, that definitely influenced the whole net exports idea, as well as the policies of government toward international trade. Sometimes you have some governments that you have less tariffs, less taxes imposed on imported products, so it's much easier for people to use and buy imported products. And some countries and governments, actually, as I just explained for you, for different reasons, for gaining some extra income or for supporting the national basically production, they impose so much quota, taxes, and limitation on export, and actually they exporting product to the country, which is importing, and that causes people to not buy really imported product because that seems very expensive. For example, a country like Malaysia imposed a lot of taxes on cars, foreign products, cars like Honda, Toyota, or any other foreign products in Malaysia to make Malaysian product called Proton seems cheaper. So most of the people inside the country that they cannot afford paying that huge money for an imported product, they pay for their own benefit. Because how the imported product is going to be kind of controlled. So figure one, the internationalization of the U.S. economy. Look at this from 1950s to 2000. Percent of GDP and so on. You can see this is export. The next one, this green line is import. So you can see in the history of U.S. for up to 70 something. Actually, up to this level, actually almost they have surplus in their balance, trade balance. After that, they had deficit, and they were completely balanced, equal in export and import. And then here you can see again, export kind of surpassed the import. And after that, from 1980s and 1977 something, between 1975 to 1980s, they have a constant deficit. Means the import is way higher than the export. So this is how the internationalization of the U.S. economy is between 1995, 1950s to 2050 years. The flow in financial resources, net capital outflow. Net capital outflow refers to the purchase of foreign assets by domestic residents minus the purchase of domestic assets by foreigners. So the more you buy assets out of the country by your money, minus the more assets that your foreigners are buying in your country, the difference will be net capital outflow. A U.S. resident, a U.S. resident, like an American resident, buys the stock in Toyota Corporation, and a Mexican buys the stock in the Ford Motor Corporation. The difference between these two will be the net capital outflow. Means how much out of U.S. coming and how much comes to U.S. When a U.S. resident buys the stock in Telmex, Mexican phone company, purchase raises U.S. net capital outflow because you're using your money to buy others' assets out of your country. And a Japanese resident buys the bond issued by the U.S. government, purchase reduce the U.S. net capital outflow. So you see, if somebody else, a foreigner, buys something in U.S., that's actually affecting the net capital outflow negatively. So variables that influence net capital outflow. The first one is the real interest rates being paid on foreign assets. So real interest rates all the time. Interest rate is one of the most important factors in the economy, and that influences so many things. One of the basic things that interest rate actually influences is basically how much you paid on foreign assets, and that caused definitely serious and drastic influence on net capital outflow. Also, net real interest rate being paid on domestic assets. This is also influencing the same thing for the same reason. The perceived economy and political risk of holding assets abroad. Some certain economies are not as stable, so the higher the risk is, definitely the lower the chances of others coming and buying any asset in that economy. For example, a country like Libya that has been affected by civil war since 2 years ago definitely is not a country for foreign direct investment, and definitely there is a high risk. That's why nobody is gonna political and economic risk. So nobody is gonna go over there and invest, buy any asset, and do anything. Countries like Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, there are countries that they have been politically stable, economically stable for quite a long time. So they're going to attract so many partners in investing and so on. So that definitely positively influences the capital outflow. Net export NX and net capital outflow NCO are closely linked. For an economy as a whole, net export and net uh, capital outflow must balance each other so that these are equals. These hold true because every transaction that affects one side must also affect the other side by the same amount. That's clear. When you have net capital outflow, which is how much other people invest in your country and how much your people invest in other countries, more or less includes how much you export minus how much you import. So net export is a component of GDP. As you remember, we explained last week, Y equals to C plus I plus G plus net X. National saving is the income of the national that is left after paying for current consumptions and government purchases. So if you minus C and G from national income in saving, you end up having I plus net X. So national saving S equals to Y minus C minus C. So S for national saving equals to I plus net X, or saving equals to domestic investment plus net capital outflow. So this is how macroeconomy actually we develop different formulas for different occasions, simply by changing the location of a certain variable or certain parameter in the formula or equation, we create new formula. As you remember, from national income, we came to national saving, and national saving by itself equals domestic investment plus net capital outflow. So S equals to I, domestic investment plus national and net capital outflow. The national saving, domestic investment, and net foreign investment. This is as a percentage of GDP for United States. This is how domestic investment means. Then you have this as the national saving, and as you can see, based on this formula that we just saw, saving equals to domestic investment plus net capital outflow. Domestic investment, national saving, and this is what you get in between, which is net capital outflow. So when you can see here, net capital outflow as a percent of GDP is how we show. So net capital outflow in the US between 1960 and 2000. So the prices for international transactions, real and nominal exchange rate. International transactions are influenced by international prices. For sure, when there is any transaction, there are prices involved, and that definitely plays a significant role. The two most important international prices are the nominal exchange rate as well as the real exchange rate. What is the nominal exchange rate? Nominal exchange rate is the rate at which a person can pay the currency of one country for the currency of another. For example, $1 equals to 3 Malaysian ringgit. So the nominal exchange rate is expressed in two ways: in units of foreign currency per $1, or in units of US dollar per 1 unit of a foreign currency. Usually use the US dollar as the main, one of the basic. The main nowadays in Europe, they use actually euro currency, which is euro, or we use sometimes pound sterling, or Aussie dollar, Australian dollar, or Canadian dollar, it depends. But usually all of these can be used. Assume the exchange rate between the Japanese yen and US dollar is 80 yen to $1. Means for buying $1, you need to pay 80 yen. 1 US dollar trades for 80 yen, or 1 yen trades for 1 out of 80, which is 0.0125 of a dollar. This is how you can show it. Another example can be, for example, 1 US dollar, 3 ringgit, or each ringgit 1/3 of US dollar. So what is appreciation? What is depreciation? Appreciation refers to an increase in the value of a currency as measured by amount of foreign currency exchanged by. For example, if Japanese dollar used to be 18 yen equal to 1 US dollar, and now is 70 yen equals to 1 US dollar, means that Japanese yen was appreciated and US was depreciated, or vice versa. If it was 80 and now is 90, means Japanese dollar was depreciated. Refers to a decrease in the value of a currency as a measure by the amount of foreign currency involved. So if a dollar buys more foreign currency, there is an appreciation of a dollar. If it buys less, there is a depreciation of dollar. So you can apply this for any other currencies. The real exchange rate is the rate at which a person can trade the goods and services of one country for the goods and services of another. That we call a real exchange rate. So you have a nominal exchange rate when you buy the currency with another currency, and then you are changing actually or buying goods and services of one country for goods and services of another country. That is actually a real exchange rate. The real exchange rate compares the prices of domestic goods and foreign goods in the domestic economy. In a case of German beer, that's why it's very, very important. If like necessarily nominally we have okay, for 1 US dollar you get 1,000, for example, Afghani. For 1 US dollar you get 10,000 rial of Iran. That necessarily doesn't show that you are going to have different power in the currency. If for example, in US for one mineral water you pay $1, and in Iran for 1 mineral water you pay 10,000 rial, it shows that the real exchange rate is actually the same. So you have that's why, for example, Turkey around 5-6 years ago, they actually eliminated 6 zero out of their money. So it used to be 1 million lira, now became 1 lira. That doesn't necessarily change anything. That's the nominal thing. The most important thing is the real exchange rate, which is the price of domestic goods and foreign goods in the domestic economy. A very simple example was the one that I just told you. The price of a domestic good, which is mineral water, and the same thing, foreign good in domestic economy. So how it works? So if a case of German beer is twice as expensive as American beer, the real exchange rate is 1 to 2. Case of German beer per case of American beer. So if you see in US, that German beer twice more expensive than American beer, means this is what the real exchange rate is. The real exchange rate depends on the nominal exchange rate and the prices of goods in the two countries measured in local currencies. Look at here. This is how we calculate it. The real exchange rate is a key determinant of how much a country exports and imports. The real exchange rate equals to nominal exchange rate multiple domestic price divided to foreign price. That is the real exchange rate. For example, if the nominal exchange rate is 1 to 3, domestic price is 100. foreign price, for example, is 200. That is how you can calculate the real exchange rate. So it will be P multiple 1 divided to 2, which is 1.5. That is the real exchange rate. It can be vice versa, so you can change any number. Real exchange rate, depreciation fall in the U.S. Real exchange rate means that the U.S. goods have become cheaper relatively to foreign goods. That means the depreciation happened in the U.S. real exchange rate. If the American product seems cheaper than foreign product in U.S., means the depreciation happens. This encourages consumers both at home and abroad to buy more U.S. goods and fewer goods from other countries. That's why Japan or China try to keep the currency as cheap as possible. Because the moment that the currency becomes more expensive, then Chinese product or Japanese product seems more expensive to foreigners. So they are willing to buy less of those products. So to encourage them to buy more Japanese or Chinese products, Japanese companies, Japanese government, as well as Chinese government try to reduce the value or value of their currency, or sometimes artificially lower. So as a result, U.S. export rise and U.S. import fall, and both of these changes raise U.S. net export. So you see, the moment that you have depreciation in real exchange rates, that means your domestic product seems cheaper than foreign product, means you can sell more, less import. That means a better net export, so a surplus in net export. Conversely, an appreciation in the U.S. real exchange rate means the U.S. goods have become more expensive compared to foreign goods. The U.S. net export falls. Very simple reason. Again, the American product seems more expensive, so people are willing to buy less American product, so less export from U.S. or other countries import from U.S. and that caused the U.S. to have less, actually deficit net export, or less at least. The first theory of exchange rate determination, purchase power parity. The purchasing power parity theory is the simplest and most widely accepted theory explaining the variation of currency exchange rates. Purchasing power parity is a theory of exchange rate whereby a unit of any given currency should be able to buy the same quantity of goods in all countries. So, based on this basic logic of purchasing power parity, if you're talking about a unit of any given currency, for example, $1 has to or should be able to buy the same quantity of goods in all countries. If the same thing happens, that is a basic logic of purchasing power parity. If purchasing power has the same thing, as I just explained for you, with the same dollar you can buy 1 mineral water in all of this country, means purchasing power is the same. If $1 is 3,000 Toman, with $1 you can buy 2 mineral water, but with 3,000 Toman in Iran you cannot buy 2 mineral water. Purchasing power is not the same, it's lower in Iran. If it's more, means purchasing power in Iran is more than yours. So, according to purchasing power parity theory, a unit of any given currency should be able to buy the same quantity of goods in all countries. The theory of purchasing power parity is based on a principle called the law of one price. According to the law of one price, a good must sell for the same price in all locations. As you can see, this is the base of this basic logic of purchasing power parity. If the law of one price were not true, unexploited profit opportunity would exist. The process of taking advantage of differences in price in different markets is called arbitrage. So you see, just imagine in one country you may be able to, with $1, for example, you're able to buy 2 mineral water, but in the same thing in another country you cannot. That means that there is an unexploited profit opportunity, and if you use and take advantage of these differences in these two different countries, we call this arbitrage. For example, in Malaysia, $1, just imagine you can buy 3 mineral water, 3 small mineral water. With the same money, in Singapore, you won't be able to buy 3 mineral water. That means if you bring that $, in Malaysia, you can buy more product rather than Singapore. That we call arbitrage in Malaysia, and there is a profit opportunity here. You can buy more product here and then go and sell it in that country. So if arbitrage occurs, eventually prices that differ in two markets will necessarily converge. According to so you see, just imagine a lot of people coming to Malaysia, buy 1 mineral water and take it to Singapore. That will cause finally that the price in Singapore will lower than these two seem the same, because the more number of mineral water now, the higher supply, less cost. According to the theory of purchasing power parity, a currency must have the same purchasing power in all countries, and exchange rate moves to ensure that if the purchasing power of the dollar is always the same at home and abroad, then the exchange rate cannot change. That's actually a basic reality. Nominal exchange rate between the currencies of two countries must reflect the different prices level in those two countries. So you see, as you can see, this is how basically in different countries the nominal exchange rate as well as real exchange rate is going to be determined. So when the central bank prints large quantities of money, the money loses value both in terms of the goods and services it can buy and in terms of the amounts of other currency it can buy. This will be affected. So purchasing power parity is a very, very good determinant or factor for central banks to be able to see what is really happening. The central bank prints large quantity of money. The money loses value both in terms of the goods and services it can buy and in terms of the amount of other currencies it can buy. So you get here the money prices and the nominal exchange rate during the German hyperinflation. This is between 1921 and 1925. This is the money supply by the German government between 1921 and 1925. See, from 100,000 they reached to 10 billion, even higher. That caused price level goes up, the higher inflation, and that caused the exchange rate to actually fell down. So that is the same reason why American dollar was depreciated, because during the George W. Bush presidency there was a huge amount of money which was published by American banks, central bank, and that caused the US dollar to lose its actually value drastically, and as well as it caused a huge inflation in US. That's what happened, and they call German hyperinflation between 1920s and 1921 to 1925, early 1920s, before actually World War II, after World War I. Limitation of purchasing power parity. Many goods are not easily traded or shipped from one country to another. That's one of the basic limitations. And tradable goods are not always perfect substitutes when they are produced in different countries. That's also another fact that you don't really get the maximum perfect tradable goods that can be completely good substitutes for other products that they're producing in different countries. So in summary of what today, we have had today, net exports are the value of domestic goods and services sold abroad minus the value of foreign goods and services sold domestically. We already talked about that, the difference between exports of a country and import of the same country will be net export. Net capital outflow also was the acquisition of a foreign asset by domestic residents minus the acquisition of domestic assets by foreigners. So if an American buying a stock related to, for example, Japanese market, and a Mexican is buying a stock in American market, or buying a house in American society in America, the difference between them will be net capital outflow. An economy's net capital outflow always equal its net export. That's a rule. The net capital outflow equals to net export, and economies savings can be used in their finance investment at home or to buy assets abroad. This is another fact about economy saving. They can be used to either finance investment at home or buy assets abroad. The nominal exchange rate is the relative price of the currency of two countries. As I just explained, for example, 100 yen in comparison with $1 US. We call that a nominal exchange rate. How much you have to pay to buy $1 American when you're using yen, or vice versa. That is nominal exchange rate. But the real exchange rate is the relative price of the goods and services of two countries. The same price, the same product in both of these two countries. So when the nominal exchange rate changes, so that each dollar buys more foreign currencies, the dollar is said to appreciate or strengthen. When the nominal exchange rate changes, so that each dollar buys less foreign currency, the dollar is said to be depreciated or weakened. So we talk about appreciation and depreciation. If you used to use $1 to buy 100 yen, and now it's $1 110 yen, means the US dollar was depreciated. Sorry, appreciated. And now if you have $1 80 yen instead of 100, means US dollar is depreciated. So that's about appreciation and depreciation. According to the theory of purchasing power parity, a unit of currency should buy the same quantity of goods in all countries. That's also very, very important whenever you want to look at this theory, which is a well accepted theory. And we're talking about the fact that a unit of currency, for example, $1 should buy the same quantity of goods in all countries. If it buys one mineral water in Malaysia, it should buy 1 mineral water. In Singapore, it has to buy 1 mineral, for example, water in Germany, 1 mineral water in US by itself, and any other places in the world. And if there is nothing like that, then arbitrage can happen, because there is a difference between a US dollar, which is a unit of currency, and the purchase power of the same thing all around the world. So if $1 cannot buy the same, they can buy more in another country. In that country, they try to exploit this opportunity. The nominal exchange rate between the currencies of two countries should reflect the country price levels in those two countries. So now we're talking about the nominal exchange rate between the currency of two countries. to reflect the country's price level in those countries. We usually look at the price level of foods and products in different countries through their nominal exchange rate. For example, if Singapore, one Singaporean dollar is 3 Malaysian ringgit, means the prices of goods in that country is above Malaysian. For example, McDonald's menu is going to be the same price, but all in Singaporean dollar, while in Malaysia it's in Malaysian ringgit. So if you are a Singaporean coming to Malaysia, you definitely can enjoy buying more product with less money. And if you're going from Malaysia to Singapore, you have to spend more because your money is less powerful, nominally weaker than Singaporean dollar. So when you go there, for example, for one item in the normal McDonald's menu, which is for example Big Mac, you have to pay 10 Singaporean dollar, while you could buy this 10 ringgit in Malaysia, and that means when you go to Singapore, you have to pay 30 ringgit because the currency rate is 1 to 3. 30 ringgit to get the same product. So that is the final part of our discussion. So far we talked about different aspects of economy. For the last part, I can come with another example. Just imagine, because the nominal exchange rate between, for example, Malaysia and Thailand is 1 Malaysian ringgit in comparison with 10 Thai baht. That means the currency of these two economies or countries should reflect the country's price level in these two countries. Simply when you go there, you will see the price level in Thailand seems much cheaper for Malaysians because the currency is stronger than them. Or if a British person who's coming from Britain with pound sterling as their currency to any Asian countries that have different currencies, it depends which Asian countries they're going. Sometimes Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, these countries that their currency is very, very big in comparison with pound, or it can be Singapore or Japan that they're stronger currencies. Anyway, that person will have a higher purchase power simply because he's coming from a very high nominal exchange rate, and simply with £1 maybe he can buy much more product in these countries rather than the original countries. But that is how it works. That's why most of the destinations in Asia seem much cheaper for European tourists, while it's vice versa for Asian tourists that they go to Europe because they're using the weaker currency nominally exchange rate, which is lower exchange rate for their product, and paying for the actually prices and they are fixed based on the nominal exchange rate in that country, it seems more expensive. So for you as an Asian, if you want to go to Europe and enjoy, for example, one day being in London and actually shopping and visiting different places, it's going to be much more expensive than an English guy coming to Asia, going to a country and have one day shopping and all of those visiting in different part of Asia. So that is how the whole system works. So by finishing this part, we kind of finished the whole chapter. Please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, thank you, Mr. Arif. Um, okay, please let me know if you have any question. If uh, not, I'm going to announce one more time that this is the last session of our class. I have received the assignments of all of the group. If by any chance there is any group that has not sent any assignment, I want you to know definitely that you will have a definite uh, specific deduction in your mark, but still you can send it by today. But after that, for sure, because by today or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I will finalize the marks and it will be sent to the WWS. For those that they have not sent so far, I want them to know that they're still by tonight. I will give them chance, but definitely there will be some deduction, significant deduction in the mark because of the delay. But those that they have sent, I thank them for being on time and being actually sensitive to the deadline. They will definitely get their mark accordingly, as I have acknowledged the receipt of all of your work the moment that your group leader has sent the assignment to me. So, thank you so much, Mr. Javid, Mr. Arif, and other students, Najibullah, Mr. Asif Alizadeh, all of you for attending the class. I hope that I could basically teach these lessons that they are completely different from our previous pattern, which was performance marketing as well as leadership. Economics is much more complicated. Teaching it online is going to make it more complicated. One of those main major sophisticated subjects in BBA as well as MBA. The reason is the whole science of economy, and when we are going to link it and summarize it in 10 lessons, definitely it's going to be even more difficult. But I thank you all for attending the class and listening to all of the lectures, and I hope that I could, to some extent, teach you some lessons that can be helpful for the career that you have, and also general knowledge that you will need. Thank you so much for all the compliments, and I hope that I can see you in other classes in next semesters to come. So if okay, that's good, Mr. Najibullah. Um, so if dear students, you have any questions, you can ask me now. If not, I would like to finish the lesson and wish you all the best in your career and your life. So, okay, thank you so much for all of you, dear students. Um, I'm looking forward to see you again in other classes. So let's call it a day and have a good night. Thank you to all of you. I highly appreciate your beautiful compliments. Thank you so much. Yes, it was Mr. Shakurullah last class. Definitely, gentlemen. You can be in touch through email, and I will be delighted to be able to help if I can. So you have my Gmail. If you have any questions, definitely I'll be happy. Definitely, let's keep in touch. That will be the most valuable thing. Networking. Thanks.